Welcome back to Krown's Kitchen Cave as we get started with some early clanking and clacking in the early morning hours on this Tuesday, as it is completely dark outside. So get a nice early one in, and there's plenty to talk about actually as Bitcoin did. Oh, hey! Fucking done yet or what? Jesus, man. Anyways, that's my girlfriend, by the way. She doesn't exist. Anyways, plenty to talk about today. Bitcoin actually did have a few interesting things happening on the short-term time frames that I want to follow up from yesterday to today. And with that said, let's put the focus on the Krown Sheet application over here, which can be found at app.krownsheet.net. And I've said this so many times that I can even be even more speedier with it. Anyways, looking at the Bitcoin dominance, still holding the range. I haven't really seen anything crazy from there. Just kind of awesome between the 58 and 59% regions. The open interest is what is of most interest to myself. Still want to see a break of the range, either to the upside or the downside, above 2.1.5 billion or below 1.9.5 billion, correlated with a break on the price action range of about 10,000 to the downside or 11,000 to the upside. Doesn't matter which one, you know, breaks first. Just I want to see one of those areas broken plus the range on the open interest broken to kind of verify if that move is going to get massive follow through or not. Anyways, looking at the fear and greed index, taking up a couple points as well from 43 to 45, even though that Bitcoin was mostly sideways and slightly down actually to end the day. But other than that, I'm curious if the data tab has anything hidden within it right now, any sort of hidden gems going on right here. Premium from futures to spot, somewhat dissipating, not really, just kind of holding the range overall. It's not really anything too crazy right now, but I suppose that is a consideration. Looking at the funny rate though, it is kind of maintaining in this 0.03 to 0.04 region. Again, not a huge consideration. It's not until it gets back above about 0.1 where we do see typically major local highs being put in on like a weekly schedule. But for right now, we do see something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, as it kind of has been maintaining above this region. Typically par for the course is about 0.01%. Sorry, 0.01%. Yes, exactly. As I speak with myself. But yes, you know, it's the first time it's really been maintaining above that region. There's actually a really big misunderstanding with the way that works. By the way, a lot of people think that like has to do with people have all sorts of weird fucking ideas with what that has to do with. The reason why the funny rate changes is simply because it is a function of the difference between the perpetual trading price on a lot of these derivative exchanges versus their index price. That's all that it is. That's what drives it. Not because there's like so many people that are short or long. No, in fact, on most of these exchanges, they only ever have one short for every one long and one long for every one short, as it is peer to peer. And then the funny rate kind of, you know, what's it called? Catalyzes people to kind of go on the side that's more in line with the spot price action. Doesn't always work like that, but typically speaking, that is what happens. Anyways, going to the actual price action charts themselves right here, starting off with the daily, what do we see? We do see that Bitcoin actually did break back down below about 10,800-ish region, of which that was the big bad area that I was kind of keeping an eye on from yesterday. It's also where the yellow 21 exponential moving averages, you can see right here, and the green 55, both kind of overlay within that region and a nice little liquid zone if you wanted to make it right there. But realistically, with Bitcoin ending the day like that on a nice little sell-off, back below a couple major moving averages as they we're getting close to kind of kissing, although while Bitcoin, you know, is below this range, they obviously will not do that, is indicative of a little bit of cautionish activity. What did I say yesterday? I said any sort of a 4-hour closure below about 10,800-ish region, and I'm no longer short-term and medium-term bullish. I'd actually be looking for things to come back down to the low of the $10,000 region. Now I think I was a little bit aggressive on making that call. I've come back to it this morning with fresh eyes, and while I do think that Bitcoin has some downside here, I think calling a move all the way back down to 10,000 is a little bit too forwards for myself. I like to take things a little more on the conservative side, but I do believe that yes, breaking back down below that region would very likely initiate a move all the way back down to about 10,300-ish region, somewhere around this low right here, which is about actually a little bit under 10.3. But realistically, my disposition right now is that as long as Bitcoin's below 10.8, which is basically where the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average are on the 4-hour, then I am short-term, medium-term bearish on this one, looking for price action to come back down around that 10.3 region with potential continuation all the way down to 10,000 bucks. I need to be very, very careful with what I say right now, again, though, because at the end of the day, does that mean that I'm looking at, or does that mean that anything's changed with the $10,000 region? No, it's still not until we actually either get a daily total closure below 10,100 or, well, basically a daily total below 10,100-ish region, where I do start to look at this is not the bottom bottom for this current run. I will always look at all of the potential macro points or the macro pivots as potential reversal points until proven otherwise. That's just my style. It's not to say that's the worst or best way to do things, just the way that's kind of kept me safe in what can be like crabby-ish, boorish markets like we're looking at right here, just going mostly sideways within a range. So yes, if that area does break, of course we do have our next major areas kind of laid out on the macro. 9.1, 9.2 would be another extremely strong bounce area plus potential reversal area, and below there we can talk about 7,500 or 7,000. But I'd like to see 9,100 break first. It's probably going to take its time as well, even if it does happen. As it is right now, Bitcoin's kind of just struggling, going sideways here. So what's also of interest right now is that Bitcoin is going to have a chance on the daily for CMEs, which I do believe holds a little bit more weight here, to put in not regular, but hidden bearish divergence. Now, Caretaker's actually got this as a solid line right now that should be dotted, as this is not confirmed. This is on a more, well, at least in the way that I do things, I would not consider this confirmed. I want to see the end of today's daily total closure, but any sort of a closure basically below the 21, which is 10,800-ish region for CMEs. And then yes, we will not only have hidden bearish divergence present, but we'll have a tweezer top in place, a lower high as well, and I'd be looking for another move back down to about 10.3. Yes, and that is going to let's see what the reverse stochastic indicator cross would say as well with momentum on the daily. Yeah, we'll turn back to the downside with any sort of a closure below 10,550. So I would be looking for that as a very, 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 very short-term pivot. I'm curious what that same sort of level is on spot price action, and yeah, it's actually a little bit higher than that. You don't see that too often, but 10,570-ish region, basically where the Cyan 89 expansion average is right now. So what essentially that means is that we probably do have a very short-term bounce on maybe like an hourly, somewhere around 10,550-ish region, but I would not really be looking for anything more than that actually. Any sort of a move back down below last Friday's low. Let me just double check that that's actually Friday the 25th of September. Yeah, it was. Okay, so nice one. Any sort of a move back down below there, which is actually 10,550 as well, and I'd probably be looking for overall continuation, or that'd kind of be my next short-term signal for making a move back down to about 10.3 region. I do believe that we would see another short-term bounce somewhere around 10.3, and that's where I really want to come back and analyze things in real time. Could things come back down all the way to 10,000 even, or 10,100, the same area that all these wicks have been accumulated within, and still bounce from them? Yes, absolutely. I want to be very, 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 very clear in stating that while I do think that Bitcoin does come down here, I will not, I would still not let go of this point as a potential reversal point until we actually officially break that. Again, that means that I'm going to be, one of the later people probably calling a breakdown below that region. But as it is right now, on the daily, if we do start to close below, again, that 10,550-ish pivot, we will, like I said, turn that momentum to the downside. Not like I said, but Pig said. Pig's got the formulas right here at 10,570 to be exact. So anything below there, and we will see this actually reject the bullish control zone, as it's going to be testing it a little bit later today and fall on back down, and that would look rather nasty, looking like officer nasty, especially since it's what's it called, Halloween coming up soon. And oh my God, it's my favorite day of, oh my God, I've been waiting for this for like a year or two. It's today. The presidential debates are today. This is fucking amazing, man. Oh my God, it's like all my dreams are coming true in just one day. We have the most hilarious thing ever to watch, and I am no longer in the US to have to deal with any of this bullshit. That sounds very unpatriotic, but you know what? You know what? Being patriotic about a place that you were fucking born in, had no actual control over, is something that I don't think is worth being proud of at all. But then again, it's not like that I hate America. I actually quite like America, but the point is this: we live in the funniest simulation. We have fucking Donald Trump, a reality TV star, who literally has said on national TV, I don't call women fat except for Rosie O'Donnell. and I saw him on another one where he's getting like fresh off of a helicopter, and then he just yells into the camera, Joe Biden is a dummy. It's like, just like that. I'm not exaggerating at all. And Joe Biden on the other side, I mean, just look up one of the videos from him. It's going to be like, we can only re-elect Donald Trump. And it's like, can you imagine this guy with the fucking nuclear codes? It's like, sir, China's attacking. What should we do? We should nuke, we should retaliate. We should only nuke America. It's like, all right. And now everyone has disliked this video and left this channel. Okay, so only the TA nerds and me now, not the political nerds. Get the fuck out! Sorry. Anyways, okay, so back onto the lower term timeframes. Bitcoin momentum on the 4-hour does remain to the downside as long as we're below about 10,871 region. Not very helpful though, because that will be changing in about 3 hours and 20 minutes. I mentioned that will come back down around the 200 simple. Which is about 10,800-ish region. So if Bitcoin actually does start to print 4-hour dildos and close 4-hour dildos back above 10.8, I would actually revert my analyses, or it would essentially invalidate the downside targets as they are right now. So fair enough, keep that in mind. As always, there is a failure point, as with yesterday's as well. We had kind of the same thing going on last weekend, or sorry, actually last weekend right here in this past weekend that we just had, where Bitcoin just gets a quick throw over on the 200 simple on the 4-hour. And, do we hit the next target to the upside? We got close to 11,000, not quite there. I was saying more like 11,100-ish region, but all of it's kind of an area of fuckery, as it is just another lower high as it stands right now. And looking at this right here, I'd pretty much have the same sort of call on it. If Bitcoin were to come back above about 10,800-ish region, I would look for a quick move to about 10, or sorry, not 10, but 11,150, maybe even 11.2, wherever this prior high is right here, which is, about 11.1 to 11.2. We'll just say, in fact, you know what I need to do? I need to start marking these areas off, because I actually haven't fully done this chart. But what I'd do is I'd have this area right here, about 11.150 to 11.2 exactly. And that'd be a nice little liquid zone to the top side. Above there, I'd basically just be overall bullish. I mean, it'd be a confirmed reversal. We'd have higher low and a formal higher high on a daily as well. And we could talk about the same areas that we played off of in what was it, August? Yeah, the month of August. So 11.5 is going to still be of interest. 11.8 is going to be of interest. This major meltdown right here, and then of course $12,050 is also going to be of interest as well. Nothing too crazy about that, but again, going to be held back by this 11,100-ish region right here. Again, just basically the last prior high. On a 4-hour, that'd be 11,150. On a daily, that would be 11,100, or actually just a few ticks below 11,100. So for right now, it is looking like another lower high. And again, this will be confirmed on CMEs with any sort of a closure below, especially the 21, which is about 10,820-ish region right now. I'm curious if the 12-hour could be any more of a harbinger of desperation here. And yes, indeed, if we do see any sort of a basically any sort of a closure below the area that we kind of bounced off to the 21 exponential moving average at about 10.7, then yes, I'd be looking for a full move down here. Yeah, back to about 10.250 to 10.300-ish region. You can see that the 200 exponential moving average and the 200 simple have gotten our last few lows within this region, and in general actually get some pretty nice moves for what it's worth. And looking at this right here, we do see that 12-hour momentum has been up this whole way. It's been up this whole way while Bitcoin price action has been sideways within a range. So could you interpret this as a potential bearish reset? You could. What would be needed to cross this back onto the downside? It's the same as the daily, actually, about 10,590-ish region. So keep that in mind. Anywhere below there, and yes, I'd be looking for a move back down to the low side of the range. And of course, on the 12-hour, we do have that same sort of hidden bearish divergence play, which is potential right now. And this one will obviously be confirmed, or has potential to be confirmed sooner than the daily, as this one closes in 5 hours and 18 minutes, anywhere below 10,850. And yes, that will be confirmed. And then we could talk about very likely moves lower. But as you can see right here, I'm using a little more aggressive settings, but this is what it really should be right now, because this current dildo is not confirmed as it is. This suggests by caretakers RSI that it is a potential, and to pay attention. And then when it turns solid, which I have what's called my settings basically have made it so that I wait for candle closures. You can actually make it so that it doesn't do that. You can do it by like a tick below as well, if you have access to this indicator. Then yes, it very likely does play that out. What else do we want to talk about while we're here? Anything on the very low term timeframes on CMEs? CME 4-hour looks a little bit more downside angled than actually spot price action right now. 4-hour Stokes nice and nosediving. They'll remain to the downside basically as long as we're below our current high on this time frame. 200 simple continues to govern all price action and continues to maintain a negative slope here. And if you're looking at this as a pattern, which I'm not the biggest pattern trader of all time, you'd be looking at it as a turtle. No. As a tortoise. No. Also no. I have to recall what Craig said yesterday. He gotta love fucking Craig, man. Anyways, you could say that this is somewhat of a flaggy formation. In this case, it would be a bear flag, as it is a nice little rising channel coming off the lows. Redistribution pattern typically breaks onto the downside. Do I trust it that much on on these assets? No, not really. I don't really trust patterns for the most part in Bitcoin land, except for a few, like the just triangles in general seem to work rather well, and Head and Shoulders has a decent hit rate if a few certain conditions are met. But other than that, I find not a good enough hit rate on a lot of these things to put risk on. I figured that actually has a lot more weight actually in forex from what I've seen, and to a lesser extent traditional markets as well. Anyways, looking at this right here, not really seeing anything that we already haven't spoken about. So let's go through the lower term timeframes on spot price action, of which we have a very similar read right here. Potential hidden bullish divergence actually will be in play if Bitcoin can put in a local low right here, but that doesn't really do all that much for me. It would just kind of imply another move back up about $100 to about 10.8. Still, 10.8 is that pivot point for myself. As long as below there, I'm short term and medium term bearish on this asset. Looking at historical volatility percentile on this time frame, what did we see? We saw a nice spike up yesterday. Looks like my regression that I was kind of drawing in here, maybe I was being a little bit too conservative with that, and really should be drawn in kind of an area like this, as it does seem to get all of these nice spikes within this region, and that does correlate with a lot of our local lows and local highs. This one being the local low at about $10,000, this one being a local low at about $10,000 as well, both getting some nice moves and some nice pivot points. We got this one right here before this nice explosion to the upside, and we got this one right here on this local low as well. It's not always a local low, by the way. This one was a local high right here, and then once again we actually did fulfill that trend line, and there's your next local high. So it's getting the extremes rather well, and looking at that right now, it would suggest that we're going to go into a greater contraction phase. And if we're going to contract from here after hitting a local high, then what's likely to happen? We're likely to play out the range, and in this case, since we just tested the high, probably going to go test around the low. What about 3 hour? Do we see anything of note here? Not really. In fact, it almost looks like the same chart as the 4 hour in a weird way. I'm curious what 3 hour momentum needs to stay to the downside. Yeah, basically as long as below that 10.850 is high thus far. What about the bi-hourly? 10.850 as well. Momentum remains to the downside. And what about the hourly right on over here? Bouncing off the 200 simple for what it's worth right now, and probably does play out a little bit more of a bounce, maybe back up to 10.8, could. But I think I'd rather hold reservation on that. So while I am kind of biased to the downside right here, I think that, not that I think that. The reason why this becomes a bias is because there's very easily documentable and executable areas. As long as you're below the 200 simple and 10.8, generally bearish. Doesn't mean that it can't happen to come back up to the upside from there. It's just that as long as that condition's met, I'm happy to be looking for a little bit more downside. Now, I did not actually take this trade myself because I was asleep during this nice little dump dildo. If we got a little bit closer to 10.8, maybe I do put on position, but I kind of want to see what Bitcoin's doing throughout the day right now. The time frame, now that we are in the TA nerd session, now that it's scared everyone away, let's go back to the 10 hour over here. This is what's most interesting to me right now. So Bitcoin actually already has confirmed a local high on the 10 hour, which does mean that do we have hidden bearish divergence in play? Actually, no, because we are not making new highs on RSI between this high and this high. But what we do have is we have Bitcoin breaking back down below a level, confirming a local high, which actually Caretaker's RSI has confirmed as well. And we do see that 10 hour Stokes coming down as well. And we've just seen a lot of really good moves called by the 10 hour Stokes as of recent. And this will remain to the downside, I would imagine, as long as you're below, our current high at about 10.9 actually. So as long as that condition is met, I do look for this one to have a more threatening posture to the downside. Somewhere around 10.3, probably a small bounce there. Can we have continuation at 10,000? Yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion on that. I'll just be going level by level at that point. There's nothing really crazy to it. But looking at RSI and looking at Stokes right now, momentum is more angled to the downside, and that can obviously carry on and spill on over into the 12 hour and daily. Of which, if those start to confirm hidden bearish divergence, then that's going to be a damn good signal that that Bitcoin is going to come back down to the low side of the range, and we get to play out some more bullshit going into the end of the month. Which reminds me, because it is the end of the month, let's go check out what we're doing over here on the monthly. And let me get rid of this for right now. Sorry, Pig, but there's already enough lines on this screen. And what do we see right here? Let me put it on log scale too. So there's a couple of very interesting things on the monthly right now. First and foremost, the monthly in general is good. The monthly in general for spot price action, I should say, is good. For CMEs, it looks a little bit different. and looking at monthly spot price action right here, to call it the good things, we do have monthly Stokes nice and up, nice and erect, and they're going to be staying to the upside pretty much as long as they're above 7,500. So we've seen some crazy things, of course, in trading land, but Well, 7,500. There you go. $3,000 move. Start. Have at it. Monthly RSI it's constructive over the long period of time as well, no doubt. And even the monthly Joule, if you put a gun to my head and said analyze this, I'd say, well, it's more or less good. But the problem with this is right now is that, or not the problem with this, but the thing that I really want to be keeping a keen eye on right here is how do we close this monthly? Do we close it above or below this last printed high in June 2019? If that condition is maintained, which guess where it is, it's about 10,800-ish region, then it's kind of hard to look at this as bearish on a macro scale like at all. Any sort of short-term downside moves are likely to just be that, just short-term downside moves. So I do think that I'd be a little bit apprehensive to kind of call anything with it closing this close, because any sort of a closure above 10.8, and it's just following the trend. That's all that it is. It's nothing too crazy right there. What's also interesting is that CMEs do not print the same sort of thing going on right here. Now I would say that long term this chart is on the more constructive side, yes, but we don't have that same sort of new high being printed that we saw from June of last year, 2019. This one actually closed at a price of about 12,590, and obviously this closing price right here was actually just a backfill on this. You can see it almost perfectly selling off from this backfill and then down once again. So again, long term this would actually be considered, for what it's worth, constructive. We don't really have much price action history on the CMEs, but kind of lining up with spot price action, not going to be too much different. But we don't have that same sort of higher high structure as it is right now. Looking at momentum oscillators, what do we see? We actually do see that potential hidden bearish divergence can be confirmed this month. However, I would also argue that probably should have been more aggressive on that play, because that move from about 12,000 all the way down to just below 10,000 probably got most of it, I would have to guess. Just coming down to our shortest period moving average right there. And kind of bouncing back up, but I do think that it's worth talking about just because CMEs have not done it just yet, and I do feel like CMEs are the chart to be watching. It's the chart that lies the least and is probably the easiest to analyze. Bitcoin trading 24/7, while a lot of the time we don't really see much happen over the weekend, I think does kind of fuck around with a lot of the oscillators and whatnot. For more long-term analysis, as CME obviously doesn't have those, so you kind of get a little bit less. You get a little bit less data points, but they seem to hold more weight as far as I'm concerned. That'd be an interesting thing to test, but I've only kind of done my very rudimentary tests as of late, which you probably already know about. And well, basically what they say is we don't really get any sort of major moves outside of the range, or at least it's not a reversal outside of the range on weekend price action. We've never had one of those since CMEs released in late 2017. Anyways, okay, so I think I beat this horse to death. So let's go beat it a little bit more. Let's go see what the probability panel has to say for this one. So what I want to be seeing here is I want to be aware of two things. I want to be aware of what's the probability of Bitcoin closing, a 12-hour or daily back above about 10.8, which I think that we might even already have that level in. Let's go check it out. Nope. Let's do 10.8 right here. It should be relatively high since we're so close to it right now. And then to the downside, on a 12-hour, what would confirm this as hidden bearish divergence? Well, you could argue that wait, hold on. Why is it not showing hidden bearish divergence right there? That's a real question. There is no hidden bearish divergence on the 12-hour. What was it on CMEs that has it? Yeah, CMEs has it. Okay, that's right. Yeah, CMEs has it. This one's going to be closing in 5 hours and 8 minutes, so we will have clarity on this situation somewhat shortly, I suppose. And I guess it would be better to use this probability panel actually on this chart here, just because this one's going to be a lot more documentable. It's kind of funny because I'd actually want to use a single side target input right here. In this particular case, the reason why is because 10.8 is basically my pivot point. I don't really have like a genuine bias to the downside. I'm just kind of saying 10.3 because that's where a prior low is. But let's see what this would print right here. Okay, so did I do this right? Let me see. Okay, yes, I'm single side. Yes, we got that. Okay, I might as well just make this the same anyways, just in case if I'm getting something wrong right here. Yeah, that's not going to work. All right, well, damn it. I guess I could just use double side, and we'll do it like this. I'll do above 10.8, and then I'll do below. What would confirm this as a local high? I mean, anywhere below 10.8 actually would. So maybe I'll just use the upside target probability of like 11,000 just to see, as that would actually print, or that would kind of imply a new high on this current run that we're looking at. And then for the downside, we'll use 10.8 actually, or let's just use 10.7. It's a little bit too close here, anyways. We'll do something like this, yes. And let's see what this prints out. Pretty even actually both ways. 30% pretty much across the board with the inside range probability of about 38%. But all of these would be reasonably likely to happen today. So what I can do is I can go back on over here into spot price action. It's going to be about the same as well. To the upside, yeah, I'd still use 11,000. To the downside, I could use the bottom side of this range currently, which would be about 10.3, and we could see what that would print. But I would imagine that's obviously going to be a lot less, so it's not going to be that helpful. It's just going to tell us what we kind of already know, that well, it's going to be you're less likely to hit 10.3 than you are to get back above 11,000 with this with this next daily closure. Let's go to the daily right here. Actually, there we go. Or actually, no. Hold on, no, I've got this wrong once again. Okay, it didn't say on double side. All right, there we go. That should be better. Alrighty, come on, show me the money, motherfucker. Okay, so it's double side. Did it save? Please save. There we go. Okay, great. Yeah, above target probability 25.25 versus below target probability 18.80. It looks like what's the most likely thing to happen? Also within this range, and that's basically what I'm looking at this as. But while just maintaining this range by basically not going above yesterday's high, essentially. Well, what does that mean? That means that we are in a downtrend, as we do have. Well, we're not necessarily in a downtrend, but we do have a lower high in play. The problem is that right now in this consolidation, it's doing exactly what a consolidation should be doing. You have a low, you have a high, you have a higher low, you have a lower high. So it's quite literally, the etchings of some sort of symmetrical triangle as it tries to figure itself out right here, with varying degrees of strength. So for right now, what's the picture that I'm mainly painting? It's a fucking crab market, man. We're going sideways, we're going east, and probably that includes another another test to the downside support. Does not imply that we'll actually break it. In fact, quite the contrary. But it will give it a chance, obviously, just like how we had yesterday to make that move to the upside, but failed to pull through. Anyways, go check out some of the altcoins in this market. I'm curious what they're saying. Or actually, before we do that, let's go into NASDAQ futures, and similar here as well. Just short of getting a new high on this run. So here's what I could also say, because this chart, or actually the numbers on NASDAQ and Bitcoin are so similar that we actually have something that, it doesn't really make that much sense right here, but at least you kind of see it. But yes, what we're looking at right here is actually really, really important, because I think this is just a more obvious chart. And any sort of a move back above the 16th of September high, which was 11,539, I would be looking for this to have a greater reversal-ish type bounce back up to about 11,850 to 11,900 region, back around here, maybe even all the way up to 12,000. If that were to happen, I would actually expect Bitcoin to go up with it. I'd expect Bitcoin to go up to around 11,500-ish region. Here's the thing, though. If this one does follow through with Bitcoin, and so basically what we're going to see today is who's leading who. Is NASDAQ or is traditional markets leading Bitcoin, or is Bitcoin leading traditional markets? There's been a lot of theories both ways. I haven't really made a call myself. I think that this is a more obvious chart to read, but this one's obviously going to be the laggard if this one turns down from this region, because right now it is technically still making, or would be making, a lower high, and it also would have hidden bearish divergence present between this point and this point, so that is very much relevant right now. The thing is, though, is that if we do take out this high from 16th of September, then this is going to lead to a much greater bouncy bounce here, another like $500 or so to the upside. So if that were to happen, I'd probably be looking for Bitcoin to crawl its way into, maybe not crawl its way, but green dildo its way into the mid 11,000s. So I'd actually put an alert right here, because this one's a pretty damn easy play to be making at about 11,550-ish region. If that area does get taken out to the upside, even just with a tick, very likely we will see this greater move play out to the upside. But for right now, it is just another lower high. And if we do see another, if we do see today essentially go sideways here in a range between about 11,250 and where we are right now, it's probably gonna be a good signal that this is going to turn into a lower high. We are also at the 4-hour 200 simple, and 4-hour Stokes are looking like they want to turn down. In fact, they are in the process of turning down right there, and they will turn to the downside with any sort of a closure or just a failure to close above the 200 simple right here on the 4 hours. So a lot of good things kind of coming into visual view with each other, which is good for Confluence. And while it is grinding this area up right now, another couple failures within this region, and well, I'd be looking for the downside to get filled out, similar to Bitcoin, probably back down to about $11,000 base. And that would also coincide likely with the monthly close as well. And the monthly closing, oh my God, man! You know, this chart is oh Jesus! I think I'm gonna wait until the monthly close to make any sort of a comment on this as it is. This can go a lot of ways here. If we do close this one, oh my God. Okay, actually, no. This is not the right time to be talking about this. Still, too much can happen between tomorrow and today, where I don't think it's really relevant. I'm a little bit concerned about this over here on the monthly, but that is obviously on a monthly, so not necessarily going to play out like today or tomorrow. But that would be a damn good indication that we will come down a lot more significantly below even 10,000 bucks, you know, in the next like half year. But for right now, you know, I'll still give it a chance, of course, and I'd really want to see how things close out to open up in October. Let's go to A-mini futures for SPY. What do we see here? Very similar chart. That same sort of continuation point to the upside would be 34.20 rather than, I think it was 11.550 for NASDAQ. And this one, you know, as it is right now, if it does kind of stall out within this region, it will be, I imagine that we probably have that same sort of hidden bearish divergence play in here. Yeah, it would start to create hidden bearish divergence. But again, is this confirming a local high right now? Fuck no, it's not. It would take at least another day for that to fully get confirmed. But for right now, sideways below 3,400 is problematic. That's kind of the picture that I'm painting right here. Anyways, like I said, probably best to be waiting for the monthly closure officially tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go check out some more cryptos. Actually, I wanted to see what Mr. Buterol is doing. Or actually, before we do that, let's go look at Eurodollar. Looks to me like it's got some short-term poppy action back up here. I did say yesterday probably back up to about 117, but I'd be looking for it to push back around that region. Kind of pretty good. We got pretty damn close to that already. You know, have we already seen it or not? I think it's kind of like arguing minutia right there. Regardless of it, I mean, it's just another like what cent, 2 cents that we actually missed on top of that. Yeah, about 2 cents on that one. So, you know, you know, maybe another short-term move back up here. But as long as this thing's below about 117 on a weekly basis, I'm bearish on this one. Just short-term pops back up. Maybe even does get another wick back up to about 117.5. But this one's going to come under the guise of the weekly and monthly closure. Here's the real perspective on this one. Monthly closure says, again, we still got another day of trading left, plus today, so I guess 2 really. But potential major bearish engulfing dildo being printed right here. Any sort of a closure below 117, and yes, I'd be looking for this one to come back down over the next few months, down to about 115 and 113.5, and probably beyond. You know, this is a 12-year long trend after all. Let's go look at Dixie really quick. Dixie's setting up for its own monthly close, and it's basically the opposite thing right here. Has potential to get a major bullish engulfing dildo, plus confirm major hidden bullish divergence here as well, which would initiate targets more long-term back up towards 96.5 to 97 bucks. Which obviously would probably not be the best for most major markets. Anyways, for right now, you know, those are the big things that I want to be keeping an eye on. All the stuff that we looked at in lower term timeframes for Bitcoin, for NASDAQ, for SPY, that's secondary to what we're looking at on the higher term timeframes for long-term direction, of course. Anyways, what else do we want to check? Where's Mr. Buterol? Mr. Buterol, there you are, you 352 motherfucker, you. What do we see here? This one looks a lot more like a lower high. This one looks a lot less impressive. Actually about to get the bearish cross on the 21 and 55 right there in the next tick as well. If it fails to get back above basically 360 on a daily closure, probably by tonight actually. Daily momentum will turn on to the downside with any sort of a closure below about 340-ish region, and that would initiate another move back down to the prior low of about 310. And, you know, anywhere between there and about 390 is, or sorry, not 390, but 290 is kind of where I'd be looking for this next like wick low. Who knows how crazy these ones get. But, you know, same sort of thing here implied on Bitcoin. I'd probably be looking for the same sort of trajectory overall. Going down to a 4-hour, what do we see? Looks a little bit heavy to me as well. Momentum is angled to the downside, and well, not going to be turning back up as long as we are below about 360-ish region. So 360 is the magical number on both the lower term timeframes and the daily here as well. As long as it's below there, I'm short-term and medium-term bearish. And if we get back above there, I could talk about a move to once again test around 390-ish region, but for right now, no, it does look like pressure is down in this current moment. What about gold? Gold is similar to actually Eurodollar as well, short-term uppy. But looking at the monthly right here, big problems actually. Any sort of a closure, especially below about 1860, and I'd be looking for a much greater retracement coming into what's called, well, I guess it doesn't have to necessarily be October, but over the next like few months, down to actually like low 1700s, maybe even all the way down to like low 1600s. If things get really, really crazy, we'll have a chance to put in a massive reversal here on the monthly. So keep an eye on that. Obviously, that's still got, you know, another 2 days left to trade in, so a lot of things can happen here. But for right now, well, it's definitely gonna have a chance. I'll tell you that. So I'd like to see that situation confirmed or denied, and then we can kind of come back on. I guess it would be Thursday, and see together, you know, exactly what does a long-term situation look like, and then kind of hold that up with a short-term situation. But short-term right here, yeah, a little bit more up probably, maybe even all the way back up towards about 1900 even, but I'm really concerned about the monthly closure here. Anyways, let's go look at Link versus Bitcoins, and what do we see here? A lot of stutter stepping at the at this 21 exponential moving average. We do see kind of what would be considered a bearish reset on daily Stokes right here too. They will turn back onto the downside with any sort of, oh, fuck, I need to put on my decimals again. Don't want to put on my damn decimals, but basically back down around this region right here at about 82,000 Satoshis. We can just kind of eyeball this one out. I don't really have a greater call to be made on this one actually. Weekly closed as what would be considered more or less a bouncy territory, but short term probably does play out some downside back to about 88,000 Satoshis. And I'll kind of be looking for it to play a range between where it is right now and the 10 simple to the upside. Looking at the monthly just got a backfill on last month's close, and it's actually not as problematic as a lot of the other charts that we've looked at. So I think that is worth calling out as well. But fair enough, you know, it's I think that this one's going to go with the rest of the market as well. If I did have called this one right now, I probably would be looking for this one to come back down and play around about 88,000 Satoshis, maybe even a little bit lower than that. So fair enough. Anyways, do we want to check out GBTC? We could check out GBTC. Does it show anything obvious here? Not really. Pretty fucking hard chart to read actually, in comparison, especially to like CMEs. Would look more bouncy-ish in this region, but this chart is just a monstrosity here as far as I'm concerned. Monthly's in more of a bouncy territory as well. Ooh, got some beef from last night coming up too. It's great. What about no, I don't even want to look at Ripple. I don't even want to incite the Ripplers. I think that's probably a good place for this video to actually shut off. We're 36 minutes into it, and I think it's time for me to go back on a Bitcoin right here. Basically, I'm short-term and medium-term bearish as long as below about 10.8. If we get back above there, I would be looking for Bitcoin to give another retest back up to about 11.1 or 11.2. Any sort of a daily closure above 11.1 or a 4-hour closure above 11.150-ish region. And yes, I would be looking for extension all the way up to about 11.5, and probably just play at the same range that we saw throughout August, you know, between about 11.5, 11.8, and 12,000-ish region. For right now, though, I'd be looking at this as likely to come back down and test somewhere around about 10.350 or 10.300-ish region, somewhere around this prior low right here, with maybe a short-term bounce implied somewhere around about 10.550-ish region. So yeah, you know, very tight ranges right here as we come into the end of the month. I do think that, you know, for the most part, I really want to be waiting for clarity on the monthly closures, as that's going to really set in a lot of potential long-term biases, both the upside or the downside here. And that is going to be probably what I wait for myself. I'm not interested in trading this range any longer. It's so close. It does kind of feel like it's getting closer and closer to resolution. And that means that I'd rather be cautious and more so looking for potential breakout, which I typically don't even play anyways. So fair enough. This is basically my signal to myself, probably not to trade within this region. I don't think it's necessarily worth it. So fair enough. I think that's probably that's going to be where I cut it off. I would like to wish you well. I'd like to wish you the best and the happiest of the happiest. Enjoy, and until next time.